I'm Christy, and I'm going to walk you through a series of stretches that I typically have to take most of my clients through, and I do this in a very neurologic order, organized way for everyone, even when I decide that I'm going to do this in class. Now, most people need these types of stretches based off of sitting at a desk for long periods of time, and then it gets exacerbated via your fun activities, cycling, maybe it's horseback riding, what have you. So when you sit in a chair all day, or your bike, or then you go horseback riding, whatever that might be, then you're basically in a stationary squat all day long. The body has to adapt to this particular position, and why I'm going to be real specific on how I go through this series of stretches to help this. Okay, so it's just a quick background so you understand why I'm going the direction that I'm going. And again, most people need to touch on these stretches, even if there's a hypermobility. It just simply means somebody who's hypermobile doesn't need to be in the stretch as long as somebody who's really, really tight or hypomobile, okay? So just a demo of, here's the squat positions, but let's say you sit in this position all day long, right? And so we're gonna get long and weak right here and into the glutes. This will become short and tight, the lower part of the hamstring, upper part of the calf. Knee extensors become long and weak. Hip flexors become long and taut. Sorry, short and tight, not long and taut. And then this starts to pull the pelvis forward, then the belly starts to dump out, and then your erectors become short and tight. And then, of course, then we start to head this direction with rounded upper back, rounded shoulders, forward head posture. It's a train wreck both directions, okay? And there is a neurologic order. You don't want to just go, oh, if you don't have time for a lot of this stuff, hitting a stretch here and there is fine. But when you're going to sit and do your organized stretch, there is an order to this because the body will release faster, okay, and relax. So, what I've got going here is 2 tennis balls wrapped with duct tape. Now, this is not ideal for everyone, okay, but for a large number of people. If you have rods down your spine, this is not okay to use. You need to use something else. Usually I would have people reach out to me. Because you have way limited extension. There's no way we're going to be able to mobilize anything because you have rods restricting that, okay? And that's definitely a one-on-one situation, okay? But in general, okay, we are expecting discomfort on this, but that's because as you sit rounded, okay, all day on your computer, and we can't help it, I'll find myself in this position as well, and you're shoving your head forward, okay, is that each individual vertebrae have to move into extension. Now, just because I'm sitting straight doesn't mean each individual vertebrae at the thoracic spine, and it'll be more specific right in between the shoulder blades, are the ones that are the most stuck, meaning they're not moving into that straight position. It doesn't have to be extension because I'm simply just trying to sit straight, okay? Now, you can use less aggressive things such as a Swiss ball. You can drape yourself over the Swiss ball. A nice big Swiss ball is helpful to stretch out the front of the body and help mobilize the spine in a very gentle way. There's also smaller squishy balls that you can use, the more mobile that you can get that spine. And again, pre-existing conditions will restrict this, okay? And you would have to contact me let's find out what's going on. Okay, so if you do have these, you're going to place them right at the bottom of the spine, and not the bottom of the spine, sorry, the bottom of the shoulder blades, which would be right around where the broad line sits, or if you had a heart rate monitor on for that type of stretch. So you're going to put it right behind the back. It's going to be on each side of the spine. And it's also getting the rib cage, and this is why this can be fairly aggressive, okay? Especially if you're stuck. All right, so hands go back behind the back, and then you go back. And while this might look simple, if you're stuck or you've never done this before, multiple things can be happening here. This could hurt a lot of discomfort. It could feel really good. You could be on a trigger point. Now, right now, I'm not really on anything much, as you can tell by my voice hasn't really changed all that much. But notice I'm also not looking backwards. I need to tuck my chin and look forward. And then I'm going to come out. Now, not everybody's going to be able to do this. You're going to lift up the hips, roll down the ball or up the spine, okay? And then you're going to do it again. Now, I'm on a stuck spot right there, and I can feel a trigger point. While it doesn't feel wonderful, it's not excruciating. And then I just come back up, and then I just keep rolling. And again, I'm on another spot. And I pretty much rolled past it now. But I go up anyway because then it feels nice. So then you get this idea that it does feel nice. Okay, you can go all the way up towards the neck. And then what you do is you do roll down. Now be careful with certain clothes. If you have a hoodie on, take it off really, because the ball's going to catch that hoodie and you're going to choke yourself. Certain material. Now I'm rolling back over those painful, those discomfort spots, because what's important here for my body to know and for you to know is that once you roll back over them, they don't hurt nearly as bad, okay? And that's a good thing. Now, there's certain points that, especially for certain people, they can't do what I just did, and they're going to have to kind of inchworm this thing up and down. That's fine too, okay? Of course, you want to be able to do minimal effort with that because we're mobilizing spine or bone, and we want to make that a bit as least of effort as possible. So now, oh God, is it way easier to sit straight without leaning forward, and it's much easier to breathe. So those stuck segments, we got them unstuck. It released those muscles that are attached to it, and now we can have more rib cage expansion, and now the body's going to be more in tune and more willing to release some of the rest of the muscles. All right, so we're going to work our way down. So we're going to start from the neck down. So let's say you're having trouble sitting like this. Let's say you got really tight. One, it could be tight hip flexors. You just don't have a lot of mobility in the hip joint, and sitting like this is extremely uncomfortable. So this is where you would grab a blanket or a pillow that's fairly stiff, and you want to fold it, okay? So it shouldn't be something that squishes you back down to the ground. It should be elevating you off the floor. Now, I'm not going to sit dead center in the middle of it because that's not going to help a lot. It'll help a little, okay? You want to sit as close to the edge as you can, because then what that's going to do is that's going to help get that pelvis perpendicular to the floor, okay? Depending on your tightness, depends on if this now is achievable here, but it gives you more room to work with. You may have to bump yourself up a little bit higher, and in general, sometimes it's just more comfortable, okay? So again, we're just going to sit nice and tall. We tuck the chin to bring the ears over the shoulders. So I'm not looking down. I'm still looking straight ahead. So this way you'd still have your eyes on me, okay? You're going to take that left ear as though you're pouring water on top of the left shoulder. Now I'm keeping my chin tucked back because I'm not trying to go for lots of range of motion. That is the wrong part of the spine, and you're going to miss a whole bunch on the neck. So you want to take that chin and tuck it back, and notice that took me out of some of that side bend. Now, I'm not trying to go as far over as I can because there's just a little bit of range of motion for the neck in comparison to the rest of the spine. You're going to take that right shoulder, anchor it to the floor as you side bend. So you're going to feel a bigger pull coming through these neck, shoulder muscles, okay? So now I'm going to make this one simple as I can. We just begin to roll it back. We keep the shoulder anchored. And you're going to begin to feel a pull coming underneath the collarbone, up through the neck, and maybe up through the jaw. Totally normal. Now, when the head lines up on the spine, we let go of anchoring your right shoulder, anchor left shoulder down, and continue to roll. Just noticing the tightness is coming through. Now, as your head comes around for that right shoulder, we want to tuck the chin again, okay? Anchor the shoulder. We keep the side bend because you're going to take your head not only down but across. This one gets a little tricky. You want to feel the stretch right along what would be the upper trap, that spot that you really love when somebody else rubs it. Okay? You're going to keep that right shoulder anchored, continue to roll. Now you're going to roll the head back around towards, hopefully I'm doing that right. No, that was your left shoulder, now your right shoulder, sorry. And we're going to continue to roll, just noticing the tension, trying to keep it in just the head and neck. When the head lines up on the spine, we let go of anchoring left shoulder and re-anchor right shoulder. Continue to roll. And again, we tuck that chin to bring the ear over the shoulder. And then we take the head down and across. Now the reason I do it this way is because isolating each individual neck area that I would be after on this it's very technical and people don't like to do that, okay? So then what I want you to do is roll the head back around. Just notice what tightnesses that you may still have here. I have one still sitting right here. So I'm going to change and just take my head different directions. Just be real mindful. It's not about trying to get this muscle to let go completely. There's lots of reasons why a muscle isn't going to fully let go, okay? And we don't need to hang out in a stretch for long periods of time to have an ideal effect. You could actually have the opposite effect. There's lots of controversy over static stretching, active stretching, this, that, and the other. Keep in mind that if you are doing this in the morning, you still have the rest of the day to go through. There's no reason to hold neck muscles longer than 10 seconds. You do need to make sure that these muscles will come back on in the day. If you do hold your stretch longer than the 10 seconds, going into 20 and 30 seconds, you will run the risk of sedating the muscle anywhere between as little as 30 minutes, as long as 4 hours, and depending on how long you did decide to hold it, past 30 seconds, maybe a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, that you run the risk of sedating it all day long, okay? And we need these muscles for the rest of the day. Now, if you're doing this before you go to bed, you hold those stretches for up to 3 minutes if you want to. I'm not saying to do it for 3 minutes, keep that in mind. Length of time for stretching, if you've never done a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, is like weightlifting, and trust me on that. You can come out of it the next day extremely sore. The muscles aren't used to this. You do work your way into it. If that's a place that you find that you want to do, it is actually not necessary, okay? It is about building a toolbox and understanding which tool that you need for the day, okay? So maybe it's, but for the beginning of the day, upper body, you're looking, neck is definitely 5-10 seconds. When we get into larger muscles, you're looking at 10 to 20 seconds. Lower half, we're looking at 20-30 seconds, okay? It's just bigger muscles can deal with longer time under tension. So now you're gonna grab a strap or a belt or a scarf Doesn't have to be a strap specifically, okay? You're gonna bring the arms up overhead and notice that my arms are at about a 45-degree angle, okay? Now, this is where we're gonna get, or we're gonna notice the tightest area. I'm not interested in you being able to do this. This is not what I'm after, and that doesn't, that's not what I'm after at this point, because this is, to get that is far more complex and other things need to be done than just stretching, okay? Especially if you wanted to do it right, okay? Now let's say you've got to go farther than that, okay? It's fine, it's your body, okay? And because this is a video, I don't know anything about your body at this point, okay? Now what you don't want, let me get in the right position, what you don't want is your arms in hyperextension where you feel the stretch only at the elbow. If that's what you're feeling, then you need to place just a tiny bend in the elbow, okay? This is just about, again, we're exploring. We're just trying to get a release and move around. You might not get that far. It is not today, and in this video, it is not about bringing the arms up overhead and trying to get that done. When the arms come close to the body, we lose range of motion. That's purposeful because that's to protect the joint, okay? I come out here, I have a lot more range of motion. Purposeful. The body knows what it's doing. We come back here, we lose range of motion. Your shoulder's the most unstable joint in the body. We want to make sure that we make it as stable as we can, okay? Which requires proper muscular strength and proper length tension in the muscles, meaning let's just release the tight muscles and strengthen tight muscles, or loose muscles, sorry about that. So you're just gonna take your strap off to the side, okay? Now, you're gonna reach out to the left and you're gonna side bend, okay? Now, you're gonna drop the shoulder, open the shoulder, and you can push that rib cage over towards the left side of the room, okay, to help get that stretch. But notice I'm bending my right arm in order to achieve this. So it's not about being stiff, straight. I can only move in these movements to get my stretches and releases. If you look at how you move throughout the day, you don't move like that throughout the day. You bend, you twist, you turn. And when you look at muscles, on those charts, there's different angles to those muscles based off of what's available range of motion for the joint. That also helps the joint have maximal contraction at different areas, and that's why some of those muscles, a lot of muscles, have different fiber angle or angle fiber orientations, okay? So explore, okay? Now, when I stretch this side of my body, it is not nearly as tight as this side of my body, okay? So this is important for you to connect with. I'm not gonna sit here, as you can tell, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you, oh, we need to hold for 10, 20 seconds. Well, that part I will. And then come over here and hold this for 10 and 20 seconds. I didn't actually do that much for you. We didn't close in on that imbalance between the right and left. I just made you looser, and the imbalance is just as big as it was when you came in, okay? Or started the video. You want to spend more time on this, but yeah, Christy, you just said, if you hold the stretch minute to minute, I know what I said. Now, I'm exploring, we're holding for maybe 10, 20 seconds. I come over here. Now there's a break, there's rest for that muscle. Yes, stretching is actually active work. So then when I come back over here, it's new, okay? Because I gave this muscle enough time to rebound a bit, and I'm gonna see how much it rebounded and how much more I need to release. It didn't rebound all that much. I don't have to spend that much more time on it, but I spent more time on the tight side. This gets a little confusing and tricky because there is so much information out there. Because remember, this is about what you need, the toolbox. Okay, so we're going to make a 90-degree angle with the front leg, 90-degree angle with the back leg. So how do we do this? Okay, it's surprising how many people can't do this. Okay, so if you're on your mat, your shin is parallel with the front of your mat, or whatever happens to be the front of your mat at this point. The side of the thigh is parallel with the edge of the mat. Your back leg is also, that shin is parallel with the side of the mat, and then your thigh is parallel with the mat, okay, the edge of the mat, okay? Now, not everybody's going to be able to sit up the way that I'm sitting up without massively contracting this area. We don't want this area to contract at all, if possible, okay? So this is where that blanket, a block, a chair to help support you and relax this area. Let's say it already started cramping. It just means you gotta get out and then move back into it, okay? And then just relax as much as you can, okay? You're gonna take the back hand, so this is the right hand, right hand, because this is the left leg in front, okay? You're gonna take that, grab a hold if you can, and you're gonna pull yourself into the stretch. So why am I doing another side bend? Because this actually emphasizes from the rib cage down, the bottom of the rib cage down, versus the other one was the bottom of the rib cage up. Different muscles, okay? So again, we're gonna drop the shoulder down, and again, you're just exploring, okay? Now, because some of you are going to have really tight hips, and this leg might be way up there. Some of that's tightness, some of that is how the head of the femur is sitting inside the hip socket, okay? So there's a couple of things going. So we're just going to get into the hips. We're going to find length through the spine. I'm not trying to get you all the way over so you can feel a stretch, because sometimes you won't feel a stretch in the hips specifically in this particular position. So this is a very modified version of pigeon. And in order to get that whole piriformis, or what we're after in pigeon, you have to be able to get the leg 90 degrees. Most people cannot do that, okay? So this is a nice way to start. I am gonna hit this position one more time in a different way, okay? So to capture this, the whole hip, then we would rotate the shoulders towards the calf. We find length through the spine. I feel it more in my low back, normal. I feel a bit more coming under for the hamstring, normal. I feel stuff in the opposite inner thigh, normal, okay? And rotate the shoulders one more time. And notice I'm not trying to go all the way to my foot, even though I feel the stretch in my lower back. I'm trying to find length in the spine to create that stretch, that pull. And of course, I have some people that like to come over here and reach. I personally never feel anything off of that, so I very rarely do it. But again, you might like it, okay? So again, you might be the person that needs the blanket, the prop, to help you get into this 90-90 position. And this should be fairly close, depending on, again, your body. We're gonna take that left hand, get a hold of the knee, and we're going to side bend, okay? So again, you wanna try to pull yourself into the side bend, not contracting at the hip. Again, if you're contracting at the hip, come out of the stretch, come back into it. You drop, and again, feeling what's going on. If you need to revisit the other side, feel free to visit the other side. While this is to walk you through it together, it's more instructional than like class-wise. You can sit there, you can put me on pause so you can stretch more, right? And we can find length. This way it doesn't become an overly long video, but extremely informative for you, okay? And then we find length. And again, and you might feel this in a different part. I feel this in a different part of my lower back. I feel this in a different part of my legs. But it's all a part of how all these muscles get into this particular position. So the tight ones are going to be exposed, okay? can't really isolate one particular muscle. We can emphasize a muscle possibly, or at least that area. Okay, so now we're going to come out of this particular stretch. And if you have sensitive knees, you need to put the blanket or extra padding under the knees. Okay, it's just a little bit nicer. Okay, and so we're going to take, and again, you may need props to help you with the balance portion of this. My leg is all the way out and all the way straight. The foot is flat on the floor. Bend the knees so you've got balance help, okay? Now, if your back foot is inside and your hip is opening because you're trying to face me, I need you to swing that foot around and square the hips up the direction that you're facing, okay? So this is so you can see my back leg and what the heck is going on, okay? Now in yoga, we'll do lots of things with the hands down. I'm not going through that, so that part's actually not very necessary. What is necessary is that back hand or that inside hand, depending on how you're doing this. If it's the same hand as the back leg, that's what's going to help keep your hips square, okay? That's the most important part. We do engage the glutes, and then we push the hips forward. So there is a strength aspect to stretching because the body needs to have stability in order to release that tight muscle, or else you're wasting your time. So let's say this is tender and you're like, ugh, this is uncomfortable, it's not releasing. Well, that's because your body needs you to back out of the tension a little bit, because it doesn't really like what you're trying to do either, so it won't release until you back out. And then when you go back into it, you're going to find you're going to get a probably maybe not as big as release as what you just saw me do, but you'll get some sort of release. You will feel some stretching in the adductor groin area because this portion of the adductors and groins help with hip flexion. Okay? Again, you may have to back out of it. Notice I'm barely coming off the tension, then moving back into it. I barely come off of it and move back into it. There's going to be a point where my body's just going to stop giving up that type of flexibility where I could just hold it. Okay? Now, this is for people who have that kind of flexibility. If you do not have that kind of flexibility, do not do this. It's not necessary. If you can bend that back leg and bring the heel closer, do it. If you can't, and you're just looking at me like, I can't do that. Okay. You know, I will get into this in another position. You don't have to worry about it. And release, okay? Not everything I do, your body is capable of doing. But I know most people can do this one, okay? And then we just come out of it. And again, take your time. I do this all day long. I have done this all day long for 30 years. Moving in and out of these postures is very easy for me. It might not be that easy for you today, and you may need extra props to help you with balance. Remember, the leg is all the way straight, foot flat on the floor, bend the knee so there's more balance. So I'm trying to give you those cues for balance. Make sure that your foot's not inside, that you swing it out, and notice how that swings my hips around. Notice I've got to catch myself for balance as well. That leg that's in back, the one that we're stretching, that hand goes to the waist to help square this up for you. We engage the glutes, we push the hips forward. And again, now I'm going to spend a little more time on this particular area. Make sure you're engaging the glutes. That helps, one, increase the stretch, but in a safe way. Back off that tension if you need to, if it's not releasing, and then go back into it. Good. And even though I know mine will release, I hate static stretching. I really do. I like this active, integrated, connected way because you can actually get a better release, faster release, and then when we do get to a static portion, it's more powerful and you do not have to spend that kind of time there. Some people love stretching. Well, then spend as much time there as you want to. and then we release. Oh, I gotta do that back leg, right? You can bend that back leg if it's available. And again, it's just if it's available. Not everything's available to everybody. There's lots of positions and stretch movements I can't get to, but it doesn't matter because my body has its own unique orthopedic profile, one that was inherent to me, and then as we live life, we have life experiences that will make up this body as well, right? So now we're gonna work our way down, okay? So again, I'm turned to the side so you can see other things that I'm doing. So I move all over the place. This is probably going to turn out to be a longer video than I planned, which is okay. So a lot of times people think, oh, I got to have my foot all the way up into the groin. Now look what happened to my pelvis. It's now diagonal, and then I've got this extra rotation that I have to do that makes it less available to get to my foot, especially if you have a tight low back, because this part of the low back is related to this hamstring. And so I have you slide the foot down. The reason I do that is because as you slide the foot up, head of the femur has to move inside that hip socket to accommodate what you're trying to do, okay? Now, this way, again, my intention is to keep the pelvis square. Now, if you cannot grab at the ball of the foot, not the tops of your toes, the ball of your foot, if you can't reach that, you need the strap, okay? So that strap goes around. Now, I'm not gonna keep it straight because then if I do, it's gonna slip off my pinky toe. So you gotta have it a bit diagonal to help with this. And I'm gonna turn so you can, again, get this, what I need to get to show you for this one. It's terrible English, but that's okay. All right, so now, palms are up. You pull that foot towards you so you can get into the calf and behind the knee. We find length through the spine, and you use your upper back and your biceps to pull you down. Now, most of you are gonna probably go, oh, but I feel this behind my knee and my calf and not my hamstring. Trust me, you are stretching your hamstrings, but this part is also has a role with those hamstrings because in order for you to bend the knee, hamstring has to cross the knee joint, calves have to cross the knee joint. You have two muscles that assist back there, and then, of course, the calf has to then cross at the ankle joint. So this way we get the full Monty in here, right? Okay, do make sure that you contract the quadricep. Again, that's for stability for the knee. Now you can rotate if you want to rotate, okay? Now you can do that rotation with the strap. Now I'm able to get to my foot, but notice I'm not trying to get to my foot like this. That's a waste of your time. You need to find that length. That's where the strap comes in to help you with that. Okay, so then we're just gonna go to the other side. So again, remember, we're trying to keep the hips square. It's not about bringing that heel all the way up into the crotch. And I'm just gonna turn. Remember that strap or your fingers go at the ball of the foot, not smashing your toes down. You'll miss the stretch completely. And then again, we palms up, contract the leg, pull that foot forward towards you. You can twist. Again, there's a lot of tension that's involved on stretching. That is for stability, okay? Now, again, you can, I probably already said that, twist, lean forward. Again, if you're able to grab the ball of the foot, and again, finding length, not rounding. I have to emphasize that a lot because a lot of people think it's about getting all the way to the foot. It's not. Flexibility, that word, flex-ability, that is something that has a genetic component to it. And everyone has a genetic potential. So some people's genetic potential is further than somebody else's, okay? It takes practice as well, okay? So, groin stretch. This one's always challenging, and I totally spaced this one out for my clients for this one. This one's the least complicated. Okay, so again, if you find that you have trouble sitting up like this, you will need the blanket again. Remember, you're not sitting straight into the middle. You're sitting more towards the edge. Okay, and we're going to go into a butterfly position. Okay, so again, it's not, we want the sacrum to be perpendicular. I'm going to turn one more time so you get this angle of it. So again, I'm not here. Now some of you still may be here after doing everything that I've said. That means you need to be propped up even more. Okay, now you want the sacrum perpendicular to the floor. Okay, now if I bring my heels close enough, I round my lower back and I am defeating the purpose of this groin stretch. Okay, so you may have to take your feet out further to be able to get that movement. Okay, so I bring my feet closer, I'm restricting movement. Okay, so again, this is where that blanket comes in, and you may have to be out even further in order to get this, and that might mean not being able to grab your ankles. That's okay. Okay, so I'll just give you the front view, and again, I know I can come fairly close and still keep perpendicular, but today that feels like extra work, and I don't want to do that kind of extra work for a stretch. And then again, you may be way out here, which would then bring your hands up a bit higher. Okay, I'm just going to go diagonal. Okay, now I don't have people grab their feet. That's not the most stable place to grab. Your ankle is the most stable place, or just somewhere along the thigh. Now that helps anchor to help us find length, and again, you might not get this kind of length, and we're trying to bring our face past the foot by trying to maintain as much length through the spine as possible. This is not about rounding. That's just stretching your upper back. Your upper back is already stretched to pieces because of how you sit at the computer. All right, now you can press down on one leg and then the other. If your arms are long enough, in order for me to do both arms at the same time, I have to round. Okay? My arms are short in comparison to my torso, so I have to do one at a time if I do this stretch. I personally don't feel anything off this stretch. I don't actually do this one, but I know a lot of people get a lot from this stretch. Okay, so now we're going to come all the way down to the floor. Okay, and I'm still after hip flexors. Just lots of different ways the hip flexors work. Okay. So, the leg that is farthest away from me, you're going to cross it over the leg that's closest to me. And then you're going to drop the knees away from me. So I'm after this corner and then wrapping around towards the spine and then maybe upward. Okay? Now, if you're feeling a stretch that's not releasing or there's pinching and biting into that lower back, you come off the tension and then you move back into the tension. It's not about coming all the way out unless you feel you need to readjust. And then you back off that tension if you need to, and then go a little bit deeper. And you can use that top leg to do overpressure, but not so much overpressure that you hold your breath. Now you come back to center. When we do twists, we release, hug the knees, and you wiggle those hips. It's to re-centralize the spine and the pelvis. Take your feet back down to the floor. You're going to take the leg that's closest to me, cross it over the leg farthest away from me, and then drop the knees to me. Okay? And again, we're looking at that corner of that hip bone down, up, and then back towards the spine. Trouble releasing, you back out and you move in, back out, and you move in. This one helps alleviate a lot of back pain. A lot of people overuse this area constantly. I see it all the time. So when I people watch, that's what I'm people watching, because they're movement patterns. And release, we're going to come back to center. We release that cross, hug the knees in towards the chest. Good. And now feet go back down to the floor. We're going to cross the ankle right above the knee. Pick up, okay, so inside leg, crossing over the outside leg. Pick up that leg farthest away from me, reach through that hole. Now, for some people, this is accessible, okay? Let's say this one is not accessible and you're kind of like this. If you're like this, you're the one I need to sit up, okay? Now, if it was accessible to you on the floor, you don't have to sit up because this is a better option for you, okay? But we're not sagging in the shoulders. We push the floor away, activate that upper back. Because notice, I know you can see that in my arms, is that my arms are active, my arms are strong to support me versus just this. This is just trashing your shoulders for the sake of a stretch, which is really, at the end of the day, not worth it. So remember, you've got to be able to lie flat to get the most of this. Again, if you're like this and rounded, and you're not getting really that much out of it. And so then we release. Now we cross the other ankle right above the knee. We pick up the leg. We reach through that hole. We slide the shoulders down the back so there's still active muscles here. And sliding those shoulders down the back. Once again, if you're rounded, it's not a stretch. I don't know what you're doing, actually. So you would be the one coming up, doing this version. Again, not sagging. We all like to sag, especially when we're tired. Okay? And release. We're going to hug those knees back in towards the chest. And we're going to roll up, because I cannot do every single stretch on the floor. I did capture those calves a little bit. So if you're at home and you have a step to be able to hang the heel off of, definitely go hang the heel. But if you have a wall close, hopefully you have a wall close, it needs to be something sturdy, okay? And just doing this number and then this number for a stretch is pointless. You'd have to be ridiculously tight in order for that to be effective. So you're going to place your hands on the wall, send your leg back. Now notice my toes are straight ahead. And then I get to use the wall as leverage to push my heel into the ground. And if you do a tiny bend but keep that heel on the ground, we're going to catch a different portion of the calf. And then you switch sides. And again, leg is straight, bend. You can go back and forth because one will help the other with the release. Now, I got you from the neck down. Hopefully you feel really amazing. So parameters for stretching. Again, the neck, we're looking at 5 to 10 seconds for each hold. And you want to spend more time on the tighter muscles. Address, just check out, oh, which one's tight, which one isn't so tight. When we get into the chest and the side body, we're looking at 10 to 20 seconds holds. And again, what side is the tightest side? Over the other side. When we get into the hips and the legs, you're looking at 20 to 30 seconds. And again, you may have to do several reps. Maybe it's a right, left, right. And then on a different hip flexor, it's a right, left, or right, left. Okay, so, but don't go in with these expectations of, well, this hip is always tight like this. And then you discover it's actually not, okay? I have many times thinking, this hip is my tightest and this one's not, but there's certain portions of this hip that's super tight that is not on this side, and it doesn't always hold true because we go out and we live life, hopefully we're still doing that, and you use your body differently, okay? Well, so if you have any questions or concerns, definitely message me and I can answer your questions to the best of my ability. If you have any pre-existing conditions or restrictions and you're not sure what would be a good stretch for you, like I gave the example of rods down the spine. that's a definite restriction, and it does change how you move into some of these postures. If you've had your hips replaced, having anterior replacement versus posterior replacement changes things because there's restrictions. If you know that you have these, and just message me before you go running through this whole thing. I think most of all of what I did is accessible to most things, but again, everybody's body is different, and I'm here for help, whether this is a one-on-one session in person or a one-on-one session via Zoom, and I can do that for you. And I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you feel relaxed and refreshed and amazing and having